The Giron Empire's warship arrived at the human outpost like a silent shadow. It hovered above the metal towers, glowing faintly under the twin suns. Soldiers from both sides gathered on the open platform, watching as the royal guard stepped down in shining silver armor. Among them walked Princess Lyra of Gira. Young and proud, dressed in a sleek battlesuit unlike anything the humans had seen. Her long, dark hair was braided with thin metal strands, her golden eyes sharp as blades. She moved with the calm grace of a warrior and the quiet strength of a leader. The human officers whispered among themselves. Why had a Gyran princess come? Here, this outpost was a small repair station near the border. It held no special power or riches. Then the message came. The Giran envoy spoke in a clear, loud voice. By order of Princess Lyra, she seeks a caretaker for her personal armor. During her diplomatic stay, one who will tend to it with respect and skill. The human officers looked at each other in surprise. This was unexpected. Normally, Gyrans trusted no outsiders with their armor. The armor was sacred to them, a symbol of honor and family. Touching it was like touching their heart. The Giran guards stood tall, waiting, but no one stepped forward. The human engineers whispered among themselves. Some looked away. Others shook their heads. Who would dare to accept such a strange and serious task? If you failed, it could mean insult, or worse. Then, from the back of the crowd, a voice spoke. I'll do it. All eyes turned. Callan Rivers, a young human engineer with short brown hair and calm gray eyes, walked forward. He wore a simple work uniform, his hands marked with grease and tools. He stopped in front of the Gizran envoy and said again, I'll take care of her armor. The human officers stared. A few even chuckled under their breath. A simple engineer? What did he know of alien customs? This was surely a joke, but Callan wasn't smiling. Princess Lyra stepped forward. Her golden eyes met his without blinking. Know what you are offering? She asked in perfect human language. Her voice was soft but strong. Callan nodded. I do. I'll treat it with care and respect. A moment of silence hung in the air. The Gyran guards watched, unreadable. Then slowly, Lyra gave a small nod. Very well, she said. You will be my armor keeper. The crowd whispered again, shocked. The human officers exchanged glances. Some looked displeased, others amused, but Callan stood tall. He didn't care about the whispers. He had seen the look in Lyra's eyes. She wasn't mocking him. She had accepted his offer with a strange, quiet interest. Later that day, Callan was brought to the royal quarters aboard the Giran ship. The walls glowed with soft silver light. The air smelled faintly of some sweet alien flower. Inside the room stood a large black chest. Lyra stood beside it, her arms crossed, watching Callan with her sharp golden eyes. This is it, she said simply. She opened the chest. Inside lay the most beautiful armor Callan had ever seen. The plates shimmered like liquid metal, shifting, slightly as if breathing. Strange symbols glowed faintly along the edges. Chest piece seemed alive, its surface moving like waves on a calm lake. Callan stepped closer, staring in silent wonder. It's alive, he asked. Lyra nodded. In a way, Gyran armor bonds with its keeper. It feels them. It knows them. She looked at him with a calm, steady gaze. If you do not respect it, it will reject you. Callan met her eyes. I understand. Lyra said nothing more. She stepped aside and let him approach. With careful hands, Callan reached for the armor. As his fingers touched the surface, a soft warmth passed into his skin. The armor shifted gently, as if testing him. Callan didn't pull back. He placed both hands on the chest piece and felt a strange hum like a soft heartbeat. He smiled softly. Hello there. Behind him, Lyra's sharp eyes softened just for a moment. She had expected fear or pride. Callan arrived at the royal armory early the next morning. The sun hadn't even risen, but Princess Lyra was already there, waiting for him in the quiet chamber. The armored chest stood open beside her. The living armor shimmered faintly in the soft silver lights. "You came," Lyra said, her voice calm. "I said I would," Callan replied. Stepping inside, without saying more, Lyra moved aside. She let him approach the armor. Callan studied it carefully. The pieces were unlike anything human engineers had ever made. The surface shifted softly, like waves moving under glass. Strange lines glowed faintly when he touched them. He started, cleaning the plates with slow, careful strokes, using soft cloths and special oils provided by Lyra herself. The armor reacted each time, pulsing gently, changing colors slightly. Under his touch, Lyra watched him in silence. Many in her court believed the human wouldn't last a single day. They said humans were careless, clumsy, and would never understand the honor of serving royal armor, but Lyra saw something else. Alan didn't rush. He didn't joke. He treated the armor as if it was alive and important. Hours passed. Callan worked without complaint. His hands moved with quiet focus. Finally, Lyra spoke. "You're not like the others." Callan looked up. "The others?" Lyra nodded. "Many men, human or Gyran, would laugh at this task. They think caring for armor is work for servants. Or they would fear it and run away." Callan smiled a little. "I don't see it that way. Every machine needs care. Every tool has a story. Maybe armor is the same." Lyra's eyes held his for a moment. Then she gave a soft nod. "Yes, maybe it is." But the whispers started again that evening, inside the Gyran halls. Some of the royal guards muttered among themselves, "A human caring for her armor." One scoffed. "He's nothing but an outsider," said another. "He'll bring shame." To the princess, Lyra heard them. She said nothing. But inside, a strange fire began to grow. She didn't choose Callan by mistake. She saw his heart, the steady way he worked, the respect he gave to things others ignored, but still, she wondered if he understood what it truly meant to care for her armor. The next morning, she sent him a message. "Come to the training grounds. Bring the armor." When Callan arrived, he found Lyra standing alone in a wide-open field inside the ship's chamber. The ground was soft white stone, marked with ancient warrior symbols. Lyra wore simple training clothes. Her long dark hair was tied back. She looked at him with a calm expression. "Today," she said, "you will help me wear the armor." Callan blinked. "Me. No other hands will touch it," Lyra said firmly. "Only you." Callan swallowed but nodded. "All right," slowly. Carefully, he helped her into the armor. Piece by piece, the living plates shaped around her body. The armor seemed to know hurt flowed over her arms, locked around her chest, wrapped around her legs like a second skin. The final piece was the chest plate, the heart of the armor. Callan held it gently, feeling its soft hum. He looked. At Lyra, she gave a small nod. With steady hands, he placed the chest plate over her heart. The armor sealed with a soft glow. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the armor pulsed bright and alive. A soft wave of light moved across its surface, shining like water under the sun. Lyra looked down at her arms, surprised. "It feels different," she said quietly. Callan stepped back. "Different. Good." Lyra nodded slowly.
"What?"
She turned her golden eyes to him. "I've never felt it so light before." Callan smiled. "Maybe it trusts me now, just like you." Lyra held his gaze for a long moment. Then, for the first time since they met, she smiled. A small, quiet smile, but real. But not everyone was happy. Later that evening, in a shadowed corner of the ship, 3 Gyaran nobles whispered among themselves. "This human grows too close to her. He's changing the way she acts. We must stop this. D. doesn't belong here." They nodded in dark agreement. A plan began to form, but in the quiet hours of the night, Lyra stood alone in her chamber, touching the soft metal of her armor. She thought of Callan, how careful he was, how steady his hands were, and deep inside. A question she had long hidden whispered in her heart, what if someone truly saw me? Not just as a princess, but as a person. She didn't have the answer yet, but for the first time, she wanted to find out. A sharp storm shook the skies above the human outpost. The dark clouds rolled in fast, flashing with silent lightning. The wind howled against the metal walls. Callan worked inside the royal armory, carefully polishing the armor pieces on the long stone table. Drops of rain tapped against the high windows. He didn't notice the soft footsteps behind him, till a voice spoke. "Callan." He turned quickly. Princess Lyra stood in the doorway. Her face looked calm, but her golden eyes held a strange, sharp light. "The armor. It's unstable." Callan blinked. "Unstable? What do you mean?" Without answering, Lyra stepped aside. Behind her floated the chest plate, hovering in the air, glowing softly. But its surface, it rippled, pulsing like a heartbeat that was out of rhythm. The lines on the metal flickered, twisting like they were alive and afraid. Callan's eyes widened. "What's happening to it?" Lyra walked in, standing close to the floating armor. "It's reacting to me," she said softly. I think I made it feel this way." Callan looked at her, confused. "How? I thought the armor only reacted to touch." Lyra shook her head slowly. "It reacts to more than that. It feels the heart of its keeper." She placed her hand over her chest. "If I am angry, afraid, or lost, the armor senses it." Callan looked back at the living armor. It pulsed again, glowing with soft blue light, then fading to dark. "Gray, you're afraid," he said quietly. Lyra didn't speak for a long moment. Then she gave a small nod. "Yes." They sat together in the quiet armory as the storm raged outside. Callan spoke first. "You're the strongest person I've ever met. What could scare you?" Lyra looked at him, her golden eyes softer than before. "I'm afraid of failing. Of being seen as weak." She spoke slowly, like the words were hard to say. "My people expect me to be perfect. A perfect warrior, a perfect leader. They don't want to see me, only the princess." She looked at the armor on the table. "But this armor, it knows me. Even when I try to hide it, the armor feels my fear. And now, it's breaking because of me." Callan was quiet for a moment. Then he said softly, "Everyone feels fear. Lyra, even the bravest people. That's what makes you real, not weak." Lyra looked at him, surprised by his words. Callan gave a small smile. "And maybe your armor just needs you to stop hiding from it." For the first time, Lyra's shoulders relaxed. She gave a soft laugh, a sound so quiet it was almost a whisper. "Maybe you're right, human." They worked together through the night. Callan cleaned the armor, piece by piece. Lyra helped him, her hands steady, her heart calmer now. They spoke little, but when they did, it was simple things, small stories, quiet thoughts, no orders, no royal titles, just two people sharing the same work. For the first time, Callan saw Lyra not as a warrior princess, but as a persona, young woman carrying the weight of a kingdom. And for the first time, Lyra saw Callan not as a simple human, but as someone who listened when others only watched, but far away. In the shadows of the royal ship, dark plans were moving. 3 Giran nobles stood together in a secret chamber. "The princess grows soft," one said coldly. "She lets this human near her. He twists her heart. The council will never allow it." They nodded, eyes sharp with silent anger. "It's time we remind her of her place." And his. By morning, the storm had passed. Lyra and Callan stood on the training grounds again. The armor, now calm and shining, rested on Lyra's shoulders. She moved with ease, faster, stronger.
Oh.
The armor no longer fought her. She smiled at Callan. "You helped me more than you know." Callan smiled back. "I only did what a friend would do." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "Friend?" Callan nodded. "Yeah, that's all right with you." Lyra looked at him for a long moment. Then she gave a soft, real smile. "It is, but unknown to them." A challenge was already being prepared. A challenge that would test everything they had built. And this time, it wouldn't just be about the armor. It would be about honor, trust, and the bond between a princess and a human who dared to care. The morning sky over the Gyran ship was clear, but the air felt heavy. News spread fast among the soldiers and nobles. A challenge had been declared. Callan stood quietly on the training grounds, holding a cloth in his hand, polishing the last piece of Lyra's armor. But around him, whispers floated like the wind. The human thinks he can handle the princess's armor. Let's see if he dares to face the royal armorer. Callan didn't reply. He had learned by now that words meant little on this ship, only actions mattered. Then Lyra arrived. She walked across the field, wearing her royal tunic, her long braids swinging behind her. She stopped beside Callan. "They challenged you," she said softly. Callan looked at her. "So I've heard." Lyra's golden eyes stayed on his. "You don't have to do this. I didn't ask for it." Callan shook his head. "But I want to. They're not challenging me. They're challenging the trust between us." For a moment, Lyra's eyes softened. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then we face it together." The challenge was simple. By Gyran law, a test of armor mastery, Callan would face the royal armorer, Vorik, in a contest before the High Council. They would both work on a special set of armor, a royal training suit designed for battle. Whoever prepared it better, faster, and more skillfully would win. If Callan lost, he would be forced to leave his position as Lyra's armor keeper. If he won, the whispers would have to stop. The High Council gathered inside the Great Hall. The walls were lined with glowing banners of the Gyran Empire. Soldiers, nobles, and even human officers watched from the sides. Vorik stood tall, his arms strong, his eyes sharp. He is known as the finest armorer in the Empire. And now he looked at Callan with a smirk. "This'll be quick," Vorik said. Callan simply nodded. "We'll see." The contest began. 2 sets of armor lay on separate tables. Vorik moved fast, his hands sliding over the plates, locking them in place, shaping the living metal with strong, sharp motions. The crowd watched with silent respect, but Callan moved differently. He didn't rush. He touched each piece gently, letting the armor pulse under his fingers. He listened, not with ears, but with heart. The armor hummed quietly. Shifting to his careful hands, Lyra watched from the side, her heart tight with worry and hope. Minutes turned into an hour. Vorik was almost finished. His armor looked perfect, shining, strong and ready. Callan was still working on the final pieces. Some in the crowd whispered, "He's too slow. He'll lose." But then something happened. Callan placed the last piece of armor and the entire suit lit up with a soft blue glow. It pulsed gently, like a heart beating in calm rhythm. Vorik's armor stood still, strong but lifeless. The High Council moved forward. They tested both sets. Vorik's armor held firm, but it felt cold, stiff. Callan's armor moved with perfect balance, shaping itself as if alive, responding to every motion. The judges looked at each other and nodded. The head counselor raised his hand. "The winner is Callan Rivers." The hall fell silent. Then slowly, a soft cheer began to rise from the human officers, then from a few Gyran soldiers, and finally, even some nobles. Vorik stepped back, his eyes hard. He gave a short bound, walked away without a word. Lyra walked toward Callan. Her golden eyes shone with something deeper than pride. "You did it," she said softly. Callan smiled. "We did it." Lyra placed her hand over her heart, a gesture of great respect in Gyran culture. "I name you Keeper of my Armor." The title echoed across the hall. It was a name no human had ever been given. And for the first time, Callan saw something in Lyra's eyes. Not just friendship, but true trust. But in the shadows of the hall, the 3 plotting nobles watched in silence. One whispered, "We'll have to try something else." Another nodded. "Let the next move begin." The third gave a cold smile. "Let's see if the human can survive betrayal." But for now, Callan stood beside Lyra, knowing they had won this battle. He didn't know what dangers lay ahead, but one thing was clear: together, they were stronger than anyone expected, and their bond was only growing. The grand hall of the human Gyran, Peace Summit shone with soft golden lights. Banners of both worlds hung side by side on tall marble walls. Ambassadors, soldiers, and leaders from both sides gathered inside. This was meant to be a historic day. The day when humans and Gyrans signed the first agreement of peace and friendship. Princess Lyra stood near the front of the hall, wearing her living armor which gleamed softly under the lights. Callan stood close behind her, not as a servant, but as her trusted armor keeper and friend. Yet, beneath the beauty of the hall, a quiet storm was brewing. In the shadows of the back chambers, the three plotting nobles stood together. "The summit is the perfect chance," whispered the first. "The humans trust her now, if something goes wrong. They'll blame the princess," said the second. "And if they think she betrayed them, this alliance will fall," added the third with a cold smile. They nodded in dark agreement. Tonight, they would strike. Callan felt something strange as he checked Lyra's armor one last time. The armor pulsed gently under his touch. But there was a soft vibration different from before. He frowned. "Lyra, do you feel that?" Lyra turned her head slightly. "Feel what?" Callan placed his hand on the chest plate. The hum of the armor wasn't right. Felt disturbed. "It's reacting to something," Callan said softly. "Something nearby." Lyra's eyes narrowed. She glanced around the hall. The summit had not started yet. The leaders were still arriving. "I trust your senses," she said. "Let's check the security systems." They moved quickly to the control room, where the Xeran guards watched over the summit's safety. But when they arrived, the guards were gone. The control screens flickered with strange symbols. Callan stepped closer, his heart pounding. "This is a virus," he said, staring at the code flashing across the screens. "Someone's trying to break the defense system." Lyra's eyes grew sharp. "They want to attack the summit and blame us." At that moment, Callan noticed something blinking in the corner of the screen, a hidden signal traced to a private Gizarin code. "It's them," Callan whispered. "The nobles. They're behind this." Lyra clenched her fists. "We need proof." Callan nodded. And fast. They moved through the ship's lower chambers, silent as shadows. Finally, they reached the nobles' private quarters. Inside, they heard low voices. "When the blast goes off, the humans will think the princess set them up," one whispered. "And when the alliance falls, we take control," said another. Lyra's golden eyes burned with anger. Callan pulled out a small recorder from his tool belt and pressed it against the door. The device caught every word. They had the proof. But just as they turned to leave, the door opened. The three nobles stepped out and froze when they saw them. A moment of silence passed. Then, the first noble hissed, "Get them." What followed was a fast, sharp fight in the narrow hallway. The nobles moved with speed and skill, trained as warriors, but Lyra was faster. Her armor flashed with soft light as she blocked a sword strike with her arm. With one sharp motion, she knocked the weapon aside. Callan ducked under a swinging blade and slammed a metal rod into one noble's leg, sending him crashing down. The last noble tried to escape, but Lyra caught him with a swift kick that knocked him flat. Within moments, the three nobles lay defeated on the floor. Lyra stood over them, her golden eyes cold. "Your game is over," she said firmly. They brought the recording to the High Council just minutes before the summit began. The council listened in silence as the voices of the nobles played on the speakers. When the recording ended, the head counselor stood. "These men have betrayed not only the princess, but the empire itself." He looked at Lyra and Callan. "For your courage and loyalty, you have saved this summit." Lyra gave a short bow. "I did not do it alone." She looked at Callan, and for the first time before the entire council, she said, "This human is my friend, is my ally, and my chosen armor keeper." The hall fell silent. Then slowly, the council members gave respectful nods. Even the human leaders looked at Island with new eyes. The summit continued without any more trouble by the end of the day. The first human Giran peace agreement was signed, and though many smiled and celebrated, Lyra and Callan both knew this was only the beginning of a long journey. But for the first time, they would walk it together in the quiet evening, as the stars shone outside the ship. Callan sat beside Lyra on the open deck. She turned to him, her voice soft. "Thank you for standing by me." Callan smiled. "I always will." And they both knew, no matter what dangers came next, their bond was strong enough to face them all. The peace summit ended with cheers and hopeful words. For the first time in history, humans and Gyrans stood side by side, shaking hands and speaking of friendship instead of war. But for Princess Lyra and Callan Rivers, it meant something even more personal. They had stood together through trials, challenges, and betrayal. And now, they stood at a new beginning. A few days after the summit, Callan walked alone across the royal ship's deck. The stars stretched wide. Above him, soft lights in the endless sky. He had been offered a place among the human officers, a high position for his service during the summit. But something in his heart told him it wasn't his path. He thought about Lyra, how they had started as strangers, a princess and a simple engineer, how respect had grown, then trust, and something even deeper than friendship, and how much he still wanted to stand by her side. Thinking again, Callan turned. Lyra stood behind him, her armor shining softly under the starlight. Her golden eyes watched him with quiet warmth. Callan smiled. "I guess I do that a lot." Lyra stepped closer. "You never think without a reason." They stood there for a moment, both silent. Then Lyra said softly, "I heard about the offer from your leaders." Callan nodded. "Yeah, they want me back on the human command." Lyra tilted her head slightly. "And will you go?" Callan looked at her. "Do you want me to?" Lyra met his eyes, and for a moment the warrior mask she always wore slipped away. "I want you to stay," she said quietly. "Not because of duty, not because of honor, but because you're you." Callan felt something stir deep inside him. He gave a small smile. "Then I guess I'm not going anywhere." Later that day, in the royal hall, a small ceremony took place. The High Council, now united with the human command, stood together. Princess Lyra stepped forward, holding a new set of royal armor shining with silver and blue. Before the entire court, she spoke clearly. "This armor is made for one who proved his heart, for one who cared not for power, but for people." She turned to Callan. "I name you Keeper of the Royal Bond, a title given to no other in Gyran history." The crowd watched in silence. Callan stepped forward. Lyra placed the armor gently over his shoulders as her hands touched his. The armor glowed with a soft light, a bond now shared by them both. The hall burst into applause. After the ceremony, Callan and Lyra walked through the quiet gardens of the ship. The soft lights reflected off the silver leaves around them. Callan glanced at her. "So, Keeper of the Royal Bond, huh? Sounds important."
"Oh."
Lyra smiled. "It is." They walked for a while before she said softly, "It means I trust you. With my armor, with my mission, with my future." Callan stopped walking, turned. "To face her fully, and I trust you. More than anyone I've ever known." Lyra looked at him, really looked, and for the first time, her eyes showed something gentle, something real. "Then stay by my side, Callan, not as a servant. Not as a warrior, but as my friend and partner." Callan smiled. "I was hoping you'd ask." The stars above them shone brighter than ever, and in that quiet moment, both knew this wasn't an end. It was a beginning, a human and a Gyran. Two hearts bonded by respect, trust, and an unspoken promise. Together, they would face whatever came, and no matter how far their journey took them, they would stand side by side. Keeper and Princess.